Thank you all for coming. It's a nice, beautiful evening in March. I'm Joanna Hodorowska, Nutrition in Motion. What I basically do is empower you to make better choices so that you perform better and you race better and you don't have any wonders how you got there. You actually can perform better day in, day out with and choose the right foods for you. And as you can see, there's 8 of us here today. Last time there were 25. The weather has something to do with it. But if I ask you, everybody, what they do, it's going to be 8 different answers. If I ask you what kind of symptoms you have, it's going to be 8 different answers. If I ask you how you eat every day, everybody's going to do it a little bit different. So my job here is not to kind of say, this is the one way that everybody has to do it, because everybody is an individual. And everybody's body kind of reacts differently. So what I'm going to give you is some tidbits about hydrating and what to kind of pay attention to. But it's also, and I'm going to give you some links on my website that give you actually the specific signs of dehydration to look for. You might have 1 of them, you might have 2 of them, you might have a lot of them. But there's 18 different signs of dehydration that I have documented on my website in 2 or 3 different places. Then a sweat rate test, and then how do you kind of put the program together so that you actually know, well, how many calories am I supposed to eat? How many fluids am I supposed to take in? Does it matter if I'm running, 30 minutes or, an hour or 3 hours or doing an ultra? And do I have to really pay attention? Do I really need to know what my sodium and sweat level is? So I'm going to try to go through some of those things. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask me. I'm going to kind of gloss over a little bit of what to do beforehand in terms of like pre-race meals and maybe the recovery meal. So you can have your rigatoni if you want, but it's going to be the small ones. Yeah, they're little small noodles. But it's about finding that balance and not really changing that much in terms of what you're eating the day before and the week before. But kind of customizing it to your output and to your body, because everybody's different. Okay. Last year I had worked with 7 different runners that were all training for fall marathons, and I had 7 completely different plans because it was 7 different people, and I had to change everything in terms of what their food choices were, what to do for hydration. Some were running in the morning, some were running in the evening, so that plays a role in terms of what to do for hydration as well. So in general, in terms of hydrating is, getting the fluids in, but it's also based on what your sweat rate would be too. So you want to make sure that you get the proper electrolytes in, but you also want to know how much in terms of the electrolytes. What's your sweat rate? What's your sodium and electrolyte concentration that you're sweating out in your sweat? And that's something where there's actually a company in Westchester called Levelin, where they do that testing. It's pretty cool. And some people, like for me, I sweat 600 milligrams of sodium an hour. Well, now it makes sense why I had all these issues when I was doing Ironman training, that I really didn't hydrate properly. Even though I was taking my electrolytes, I never took quite enough that when I got to the run, I was already kind of behind the 8 ball. And so a lot of the, that's part of the science of it, is if you get the testing done, then you can actually create a better program, because part of it is you need to pre-hydrate. And pre-hydrating is more than just, I'm going to drink a gallon of water today because I am going to go run, a 10K, a marathon, or a half marathon tomorrow. The problem with taking in copious amounts of water the day before your event is you're actually flushing all the electrolytes out of your system. So you are actually getting to the start line dehydrated when you think you're actually rehydrating. So if you're taking in more water than usual, then you've got to take in more electrolytes than usual as well. And so that's one thing. Don't pre-hydrate with tons of just water if you're not accustomed to it. It usually takes a good week of increasing it a little bit at a time in order for your body to adjust to the new amount of water. If you're only drinking 1 liter of water a day, the next day, if you go to 2 liters, you're going to feel bloated and wondering why your body's not absorbing the water. It's because it doesn't know how to do it yet, because it's too big of a jump. So you want to kind of increase every, like an 8-ounce or 12-ounce glass a day until you get to that optimal level of what your hydration needs are. And generally, for just every day, you're supposed to take your weight, divide it by 2, and that's how many ounces you're supposed to drink every day. It's the supposed to. This is the general rule of thumb. So if you're weighing 200 pounds, then you're supposed to drink, 100. But this is a rule of thumb. It's not necessarily what everybody needs. You have a question?
Pounds or kilograms?
Pounds. Pounds. You take your pounds. Like for me, it's 140, but generally I just round up. 140 pounds, divide by 2, I'm supposed to drink 70 ounces of water. And if you think about it, water is supposed to be, you're not supposed to be like a camel and keep recirculating your water. You wouldn't rinse your dishes in recirculated water. You would want fresh water to flush the things out. The same thing with your body. You want that water to basically hydrate and get the brain to work right and the muscles to work right. The electrolytes are there to actually keep the water in the muscle cells and help the muscles to contract and relax. If you don't have that balance there, they're gonna contract and stay contracted. So it's kind of important to have the electrolytes there. And most of us are feeling tired when we might actually be low on electrolytes or low on water. So general rule of thumb just during the day is you want to be consuming, half of your body weight in ounces per day. When you're running, you generally, again, rule of thumb, want to get about 14 to 16 ounces minimum per hour. It's still kind of hard, but where do you have like your little flask thingies? The belts here. So if you're doing, basically this is 8 ounces. So you want to do 2 of these an hour when you're running. If you're only going for half an hour, who cares? If you're going for an hour, you might only need 1, and you only probably need water, maybe you'll need some electrolytes, but then you have to work on some hydration and replenishing those electrolytes when you're done. When you're running longer, then you definitely want to start working on getting 2 of these an hour, no ands, ifs, or buts. And I have some people that have to do 3 of these an hour, or we have to up the electrolytes so that they get at least this amount. So it's still kind of a guessing game sometimes, but it's really about tracking your symptoms and looking at what your symptoms of dehydration are so that you know whether you're hydrated properly or not. And a lot of times when you're exercising, being running, swimming, biking, tennis, whatever it is, you got this endorphin high that's going on too. And that thing is great because it's a painkiller. But it's really bad when you're trying to pay attention to your hydration levels because you can't feel yourself being dehydrated until you're maybe 3% dehydrated. So you really have to be hyper aware of the symptoms, and any slight change that's going on is probably dehydration more than it is a lack of fuel. The most common dehydration signs, or signs of dehydration, I think that's probably a better way of saying it. Signs of dehydration is slight fatigue, slight nausea, slight headache. You feel like somebody put lead in your legs. You start getting despondent, and you're like, I'd rather just like go lay down under that tree and kind of take a nap. You just don't feel like doing what you're doing. You guys have never been there, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm not making this stuff up. It's like I've had all these things. You feel like the wind got knocked out of your. You feel like the wind got knocked out of your sails. Like all of a sudden, it's like I can't keep my pace. What the heck? And I just don't feel like it. I just want to give up. These are all signs of dehydration. And a lot of times, you've got that fatigue, and you think, you know what? I gotta grab a gel. I gotta grab a Stinger. Now there's this new stuff. It's like organic baby food. I probably wouldn't take it just because this lid is too bulky. It would probably dig into my back if I had it, But the gels, then people take gels, and then what happens is like they're dehydrated, so they've got nausea. The gel, now they've got too much stuff in their stomach, and then that just cramps. Then they have more GI distress, but they're still tired and they're still fatigued, so they take more food and they make it worse. When all they really needed was more electrolytes. Does that make sense? So it's trying to work with what are your symptoms and how are we going to work around it. And that's a lot of what I do with my Table to Race program is basically helping you to basically put those pieces together so that it works for you. And put the products together so that it works for you. And the first thing that you want to try is if you've got a race coming up and they're using Gatorade on the course, you got to try Gatorade and see, is Gatorade going to be the thing that you're going to be working with? Is that going to work for you? If they're using something else, I don't know if it's Powerade or who knows what else is on the courses nowadays. But you want to try that first and see if it's working. And then you want to pay attention to what happens, 30 minutes after you're done with your run, because that's when the signs of dehydration kind of kick in, because the endorphins wear off. Once those endorphins wear off, guess what? You're going to feel the dehydration. You're going to feel all those muscles in your quads and in your glutes and in your hips being really stiff and really tight. And you're going to go lean over and go, oh, I think I'm stuck. I think somebody needs to come help me. These are all signs of dehydration that you got to know that that's what it is. But you'll notice it half hour to an hour after you're done whatever activity it is that you're doing. And because we're here at the running club, then it's all going to be about, what you did when you're running. So it's not a time to actually just take in food and eat your rigatoni. It's about actually getting the electrolytes back in. And sometimes, a beer feels really good after you're done, but the beer isn't giving you any electrolytes. It's just kind of numbing some of the symptoms, but it's giving... It doesn't have any electrolytes in it. Unless, of course, you take some kind of electrolyte powder. And I don't really think that putting in the Noon tablets is going to make it really taste good. Unless you get the lemon lime and stick it in a Corona. That would be a good combination. So you can have your beer and your electrolytes. Do I come up with good solutions or what?
You're going to tell me that beer doesn't count.
Beer is a hydrator. I mean, you're getting liquids,
right,
and you're getting some calories. So then you're getting some of the refueling and replacing some of you're getting carbs.
Yeah.
But then you still have to get the electrolytes, and you still have to get some of the protein and some of the greens to kind of balance it all out. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a place, but you're probably best only to have one, not to have 2 or 3, because then you're going to get more dehydrated because of the alcohol, and then you're having too many carbs, and then that's going to throw off a balance of the recovery. So there's a whole thing of balancing your electrolytes, balancing the carbs, balancing the carbohydrates with the proteins and the fats and the vegetables and all that kind of thing, and then balancing the timing of it all during the whole day too. So you want to try to get that recovery meal within an hour of finishing. But a lot of times when you're dehydrated, you're just not hungry. When you've done, like a 5K and you're balls to the walls for 20, 30 minutes, however, depending on how fast we all are, it's a hard effort. You're not going to be hungry for a good half hour afterwards, but you might need to still take in those electrolytes and take something in a fluid form just to kind of replenish in a quick way, but get those electrolytes in before everything kind of seizes and cramps up, and we're going to have to carry you to the car and have somebody else drive you home because your leg is cramping, and so is the foot and the calf and everything else. Make sense? What else was I going to tell you? Oh, so...
Are you going to tell us that coffee doesn't count?
I could tell you that coffee doesn't count, but coffee doesn't count for what?
Well, for hydration.
Coffee, there's a balance with everything.
These are the 2 things I love, beer and coffee.
Well, I didn't say anything that was wrong with, I'm telling you moderation.
Okay.
One of the big things is moderation and balance.
Okay.
It's really finding that balance point, and it's going to be different for every single person. If you're used to drinking 2 cups of coffee a day, drink 2 cups of coffee a day. It's not going to make any difference. But if you don't drink coffee and suddenly have 2 cups of coffee, you're really throwing the whole system off kilter.
Oh, yeah.
Because your body and it becomes an issue because of the caffeine and your body not being used to it. And especially before races, you're already kind of stressed out. You're already having issues with, I can't sleep, I can't do this, and your body's already in a state of stress. And that stress actually sends your body into burning through some of those electrolytes a little bit faster. And then you add the coffee and you're basically just wired and anxious and just like running around like a crazy person. I've had clients who have panic attacks on race day morning just because they had more coffee than usual. And it's not really a pretty thing, but it's trying to manage that and say, okay, you can have, if you drink 2 cups of coffee a day, have 2 cups of coffee a day, race day morning. It's not going to make any diddly squat of difference. But don't go and try a week of no coffee and then do your 2 cups. It's probably going to have a negative effect on you. But in terms of hydration, it's all on what you're accustomed to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Was that the answer you wanted me to say? Kind of.
No,
Good enough.
You really wanted to argue with me.
Here.
You're on such a roll. I wanted to throw it.
You better throw. Keep going. You still have time. We're not done yet.
I'm sorry, I came in late if I already missed it. Do you have a stance on pickle juice?
Pickle juice. So pickle juice. There's always a stance on pickle juice. So this is about how do you get your salts in. So there's lots of options. You can do pickle juice. You can do because the other part with pickle juice is one that it's really salty, but the second thing is that it's sour. So it gives you this mouthfeel and it triggers the body to actually relax the muscles. There's a whole product called, I want to say it's Hot Shot. And they kind of said it's basically, if you just drink this, your muscle cramps will go away. Swimmers will use pickle juice quite a bit to alleviate the cramping. I put raw apple cider vinegar into my water bottle, into a big bottle, and I put like a capful. It's really not that much, but it's just enough to kind of give me that same feel without it being an issue. So it's part of it is that it's sour, and part of it is that it's salty. In terms of getting the sodium in, if you're trying to build up the sodium stores the day before your event, and obviously today's not really an event, it's cold outside, you're probably not that dehydrated unless you overdressed for the conditions, then you're still sweating, and you might be sweating out some electrolytes, but you didn't go that long, so it's probably not going to be that significant, and you can probably just eat your normal way, and it's not a big deal. You brought in pizza for the runners. Pizza, has cheese on it. Cheese is pretty salty, so you might just be able to replenish the sodium losses just from the next meal. But if you know that you sweat out like 2,000 milligrams of sodium an hour, then even a half-hour run, you've got to do more than just eat. And it might be, for some people, it's, I'm going to have a cup of chicken broth or vegetable broth because that's loaded with sodium. Some people will do the pickle juice. Some people will do olive juice because it's really salty, or they'll eat the olives themselves. So I actually have some clients that will use the Noon, and some that use the Scratch Labs, but it depends on what that level, how many electrolytes you're trying to replace. And I use something called base salts, which is a powder, and then I put sea salt on like all of my food. But I already know that's what works for me, but I can figure that out for everybody, for every client. So the pickle juice, if it works for you, great. A lot of people aren't gonna like it. They're gonna be like, you're out of your mind. Most people will say that, won't they? Yeah, and if it works, you keep with it. If it doesn't work, then you switch to something else. That's when you come see me and say, this isn't working. I've tried this, this, and this. What do I do next? That's when somebody like me comes into play, because I know a lot more than the average person, and you don't have to just keep asking the person next to you, like, well, what did you do? Well, what did you do? Well, what did you do? We can kind of put the plan together better for each person. So you can do the Noon. That's what you guys have here. For some people, the Scratch Labs is, this hydration packet is enough. But this has the hydration, so it has some of the electrolytes, but it also has some of the calories. So that's another part of the hydration part, is how many calories do you need? Like I said, initially, if you go for a half hour, you probably don't need anything. If you're going for 45 minutes or an hour, you might have to start thinking about it. And typically it's about anywhere from 90 to 150 calories per hour. And again, this depends on the individual, and it depends on the size of the individual. And it depends on how, if you're doing a, you know, slow long run or if you're doing a high intensity run. So these are some of the options that you can consider, but it's going to, that 100 to 150 calories per hour is also going to be based on all the things that you take in. So you can be taking in, what is this one? This is only 50 calories, so it's not that many calories. So you could do this in a water bottle, and it gives you, it doesn't tell me how many, it doesn't tell me what the sodium level is in here. It's mostly sugar, but it's got sodium citrate and some magnesium and some potassium, but it's only 100 milligrams of sodium, so it's not going to be a huge source of electrolytes, but it is one way of getting the electrolytes in, and some of the calories. This is also one where it's 80 calories for 5 pieces, and there's 10 pieces and these are the chewies. So these things, and initially when they came out, I was like, why would you want like this straight sugar, you know, gummy bear or jelly bean? That's just gonna like totally mess up your system. But the way that people eat it is you basically have to suck on it so it gets into the system slowly. But this is something that, you know, if it's only 5 pieces at 80 calories for the 5 pieces, that's still only 80 calories an hour. You could basically take one every 10, 15 minutes and get what you need for that hour. But again, this one only has 80 milligrams of sodium. So even if you put those two together, you're still only getting 180 milligrams of sodium, which for some people that might be enough. For others, they're going to have to, you know, add a noon tablet, which is I think 300 milligrams per fizzy, and add that into the bottle just to get the electrolytes that they need. So it's kind of a fine line of, you know, what to eat, what not to eat. You could also do, you know, the waffle stingers. Like I said, you could do, this is a new one, but it's kind of like baby food with some electrolytes. I think it's going to be just messy because once you open this, then how do you reseal it, and then what? Then you're stuck. And then there's more, and then the gels. The gels are always easy, and these are typically 90 to 100 calories. But depending on which one you're choosing, some need more water than others. Some people, I think the honey stingers are made with honey. The Cliff Shots are with brown rice syrup. And then Goos and all the other ones are pretty.
That's what they gave out the love run, stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, this is pretty common because you can take it and basically need about 8 ounces of water to go with it. But you can take the whole thing in one shot every 45 minutes. And I've got some athletes that take it once every half an hour, and others that take it just one an hour. You know, so it really depends on what your needs are. But you could also do real food options too. You could do dates. You could do baked potatoes. You could do some of the other bars as well.
I could make it for rarity, and they had like these potatoes that were all cut up, and I didn't know.
Oh yeah, potatoes are the bomb.
I didn't know what they were there for, really.
Yeah, potatoes are great, and then you can salt the potatoes, and then you get some of your, you know, you get your electrolytes, you get your easy to digest carbohydrates, and then you can just keep on running.
I saw Keith Straw heading the other direction. He did 50 miles. I can only handle 26. I wonder how I could do it twice.
Yeah? Pardon me? It might not be genetics. I have one guy last year who's I think he's 62, and he was going to give up the whole ultra thing. And we worked together, and he just did a 100-miler last month. So, you know, I kind of changed his program and changed his world, that he now doesn't think that age is the problem. It's, you got to get the nutrition right so that you can, and we actually had to work on most of the hydration with him. And yeah, now he's doing 100-milers again, where he was just going to give up. He couldn't make it past, you know, 26 miles, or sometimes past 30. Now he's doing 100 miles. So, you know, you have to work on these things, and it's not an age thing. So if you wanna go do, you know, a 50K or a 50-miler, we have to work on some of the nutrition just to help the body respond, because it really ends up being a nutrition thing that is the debilitating issue in terms of going further.
I could go back to the half and then maybe try to do a whole marathon. It's going to take me a while because I like to walk if I get tired.
Well, my job is to get you not be tired, because that's not supposed to be part of the plan. That's part of the hydration that needs some adjustment. because we want you to run the whole way. If you want to run 100 miles, my job is to help you run 100 miles. You know, we don't want you to be tired. That's not where you want to be, but it's trying to put those pieces together with the right food combinations, the right hydration, the right electrolytes, and the right combination, so that you know what to do when you get there. You have goals, I just help you get there. It's kind of like, you know, some of the other commercials. You know, we don't make this, we just help it make it better. So that's what I do. I just help you get there. You've got goals, I just help you get there.
You work here, you sell that stuff.
I know this is all the stuff that they have at the shop. You know, my job is not to sell a particular product to anybody. It's about putting the pieces together so that it works for you. So you try what's on the race course first, and if that's not going to work for you, or it isn't working for you, then I just help you find the other options that do work, and help to optimize whatever plan you have. So I do have a handout here in case anybody wants it. I do have some, I do have on my website, I do have the links on here that also give you the link to the signs of dehydration. If you want to do your own sweat rate test, just basically, you know, weigh yourself before and after. There's a little bit of a calculation that you can do to kind of get a guesstimate of how many ounces of fluids you need to replenish as a result. And then there's also 4 steps to starting a hydration plan, because, you know, I can't talk about everything in a 20-minute talk, right? I can try, but then you won't know what I said. And then there's other things like rules of thumb, and then the programs that I work with, and a nice little coupon on the back, because everybody wants a coupon. And then there's a nice little link here for 15 minutes free. It's at calendly.com/Joanna-NIM/15-minutes. And you can schedule a 15-minute session with me, and we can kind of discuss what you're going through and see what the next steps might be. So if anybody has any questions, you can always contact me at www.nutritioninmotion.net, or find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, or just, you know, go to the website and click the little banner that says schedule my 15-minute chat here. And that's it. And then we're going to be scheduling another talk here at Northwells Running Company. Not tonight, but what are we?
I think June.
Probably in June. So if anybody has anything that you really, really want to know about in terms of sports nutrition and running and what you're doing, just let Alicia know, and we will take care of it. Okay? So thank you for having me
Thanks for
here.
coming back.
You're welcome. It's been fun.